Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Special Edition. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and joining me this evening is Anthony Riley and Quantum Eraser. So in this special edition, we're going to be covering two people. In the first section, we'll cover Geostreber, we'll have a short break, and then we'll cover Soundly, and we may even have a little bonus person to cover after that. So let's first and foremost introduce our two guests. So how are you doing, John, and how are you doing, Anthony?
Hola. How's it going today, gentlemen?
Very well. Good to have you both. Good. So I'm hoping that before we get straight into the nuts and bolts of it, John, we're going to be quite heavy-handed with Geostreber, and I would like you to give a disclaimer for specifically why we're being so meticulous, heavy-handed, whatever words you want to use, with particularly Geostreber over Soundly. So can you just explain that before we go on?
Yeah, when I hold people that claim or have claims, and they're from academia or secularly educated, to a much higher standard. I mean, it just makes sense. Now, when I catch them using their alleged credentials as a springboard to launch their pagan religitard fairy tales as science, my blood boils. I lose my mind. So I'm not only going to release the Kraken. When this beastie has Geostreber pinned down by the throat, I'm going to unsheath Excalibur, disembowel him, stomp on his entrails, release centipedes to feast, then set them on fire. So get ready to reap the whirlwind, pretender clown. Is that good?
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So if you guys just let me know where you want to start and who's going to go first.
Yeah, you could switch it over to my screen. Just tell me when you're sharing.
Yeah, you're up.
All right, so since these two guys, Geostreber and Soundly, have hit the headlines over the past couple weeks, I figured it was time to go back and take a couple pot shots at their science acumens and their basic reasoning acumens, because we already dealt with the character issues. So, and this one came to mind. It was easy. It was a debate held, I think, last April. And it was between Geostreber, that's aka GeoClown, a self-professed master's degree candidate in chemistry, and Betty Van Velsen, the beautiful and humble benefits advisor, and she has no secular education. And I'm sure, she didn't know what the debate was titled. I'm sure she didn't notice. So this is a flat Earth and perspective hangout with a DFOTY participant, mystery guest, right? I'm pretty sure that she didn't know that title, right? And just FYI, GeoClown, she made you chairman of this. And we're going to see this over the next few minutes. So how ironic that title is. So let's get into it. Go ahead and start at 143.49 and stop at 145.20. Thanks.
This graph is expected to look different depending on the rotational speed of the planet. And the result we get, this one here, is concordant with the Earth spinning from west to east with an equatorial speed of 465 meters per second.
No.
Right.
No,
sure. Of course.
You are trying to explain a phenomena.
Yes, the phenomenon is when you move east and westwards, your weight will change.
And that okay. So what's causing that? So what's your independent variable? What is causing that to happen?
Your speed.
My speed, does not the speed of rotation of the Earth.
Well,
and how can I manipulate that so-called fictional speed of the Earth?
All you manipulate is your own speed.
So it could be something else then. There could be some other independent variable that makes that happen.
No. Oh, is it north?
You say no, but
this
it's
east-west, yeah,
not
right.
proven. So what's your null hypothesis? How can you disprove this?
I already told you. The null hypothesis is if the Earth was stationary, this graph would be symmetrical.
Now,
So right from Jump Street, the graph he's feebly attempting to peddle here is conjured. None of it is backed or supported by any real-world data, observations, or measurements. This is tantamount to Elmer Fudd giving the keynote speech at a pernicious anemia convention, showing a graph of the digestive system of invisible three-toed gnomes, focusing on the bioavailability and the speed of absorption of B12 with and without intrinsic factor. I mean, this is nonsense. And what these guys do, and Geo's but one, the ones that have channels, they offer these little debates. They throw out little crumbs, right? And they get these flat earthers that are, what you say, low-hanging fruit. Like sometimes I see these debates on them sitting there. I've never heard this person before in my life. What's their name? I never heard the name before, right? So they get these people on here, and all of a sudden they start posting graphs or differential equations, and most people aren't going to be able to handle that. So it gets them back on their heels, and then what they do is they start hammering them with their inane gibberish, right? That's their modus operandi. But see, in this case, he tried to pull that same nonsense, right? But he just wasn't ready for what was about to happen, because Betty blew that off and was just focusing on his science acumen. And she treated it like an incoherent pinata and just started beating away at it. So let the lesson be learned. Now, let's go over what the conversation was here. GeoClown, the phenomena is when you move east and westwards, your weight will change. Betty, what is causing that to happen? GeoClown, your speed. All that you manipulate is your own speed. But your speed, GeoClown, according to you, is the Earth spinning. Remember the fantasy that you're attempting to prove here? And number two, directions east and westwards aren't speeds, for goodness sakes. Again, Betty, what's your null hypothesis? GeoClown, if the Earth was stationary, then this graph would be symmetrical, right? But if that's true, if that's your null, then your alternative hypothesis must be if the Earth was stationary, then this graph will not be symmetrical. I mean, I'm saying that this is the alternative hypothesis. I'm using these terms as loosely as possible. But anyone who's been watching our debates over the past 2 or 3 months, they'll automatically know and say, whoa, wait a second. You see this will not right here, right? This should be in the null hypothesis, and the would-be should be your alternative, right? Right off the bat, it's nonsense to begin with. They ain't hypotheses anyway. We'll get to that. So number one, that's why I said define null, right? And hey, take a look at this, GeoClown. You understand that math? Number two, your independent variable, that is the cause that you will vary and manipulate, is stationary Earth. Your dependent variable is the graph. So number three, so the stationary Earth is causing the graph to come into existence? Here, let me show you. This bud's for you. Clown. Actual non sequitur fallacies are blushing. Clown boy, you'd fail 5th grade general science and the 60-level basic reasoning course. Your independent variable in your train wreck null is the stationary Earth. Can you vary and manipulate the Earth, Skywalker? I know. Perhaps you can activate your special Evo mind powers. By the way, the above is a textbook affirming a consequent formological fallacy, but we'll get to that here in a few minutes. So continue, stop at 146:19. Thanks.
Listen
Now,
to
yeah, if the Earth is stationary, so can you stop the Earth? Can you spin the Earth?
we can model it. We can listen to me. Listen to me.
It is an
Send-
invalid hypothesis. That's what
Can you
I have
please-
concluded.
Can you please do me a favor? Look at this formula again. Gamma omega squared r. Meaning, if the Earth was stationary, that would mean that omega squared divided by r.
Now you're
would
going to
be-
show me math, and math is only a description, so they can
Well,
describe
we're using,
anything they want.
known laws of physics.
Yes, but you can show me -4 apples, for example.
Oh,
show
for
me.
fuck's sake.
Yes, well, that's what you're showing me now here.
You realize that
Basically,
when we have a negative value in terms of speed, it's a positive value in the other direction. We just define one direction as being positive and the other one as being negative, right?
So, GeoClown, you realize whenever we have a negative value in terms of speed, it's a positive value in the other direction. What in the world? Number one, Betty's example wasn't talking about speed. It was -4 apples. You see, what she was trying to do or explain to you conceptually that math doesn't necessarily relate to reality. Speaking of which, number two, there is no such animal in reality as negative speed. Let me get this straight, Crayon Muncher. Because you conjure something from your imagination, negative speed, place it on a graph, then negative speed exists? Define batshit crazy religious hallucinations and fantasy circle jerk do-si-do begging the question fallacies. Continue. Stop at 148.04, please.
It's being negative, right?
you're showing me math, and math is only a description. And I want to see an hypothesis that is really tested and manipulated and experimented upon.
I already told you.
And you are only telling me that the direction and the speed is causing something, but that should always also explain how fast we are spinning. That's
I already told you.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
There's
It's
a
an
phenomenon.
invalid hypothesis. It
Yeah.
cannot be tested, and it cannot
Of course,
be
it can be
falsified.
tested, Betty. There's a
Alex,
the phenomenon is when you're moving east to west, the weight of a testing mass will change. That's a fact, right? Now,
that could be a phenomenon. Yeah, that could be a phenomenon. What is causing that?
It is a phenomenon.
So
Okay.
what's causing it?
Right. The hypothesis is that it's caused by the spin of the planet.
Okay, and what's the null hypothesis?
The null hypothesis is that the planet is not spinning.
And how are you manipulating that? How can you test that?
What you're saying is,
Don't you see the ridiculousness of your claim here?
can you please stop speaking when I'm mid-sentence? You did this all the time now, and I'm getting tired of it.
Yes, of course you are, because you're cornered now.
No, I'm not cornered. I just want
Yes,
to
you
make
are,
this.
because the hypothesis is not valid. I'm
Can
sorry.
you please listen to me for once?
I'm listening all the time. I'm
No,
waiting
you're
for a
not.
scientific hypothesis, and I'm not getting anyone.
I already told you.
So this is priceless, folks. If you thought the previous shenanigans were retarded, then somebody hold GeoClown's beer. So, GeoClown, when you're moving east to west, the weight of a testing mass will change. The hypothesis is it's caused by the spin of the planet. The null hypothesis is the planet is not spinning. Allow me to make this vaguely coherent. Your alternative hypothesis is, and I'm using that phrase as loosely as possible, if the Earth is spinning, then when a test mass moves from east to west, the weight will change. Your null hypothesis, the planet is not spinning. Your independent variable, or the cause, that which you're going to vary and manipulate, is the Earth is spinning, and your dependent variable is weight change. Number one, just a few minutes ago, your null hypothesis was if the Earth was stationary, then this graph would be symmetrical. Now it's all of a sudden the planet is not spinning. What do? Just make stuff up on the fly, right off the cuff? Think no one's going to notice? Number two, your alternative hypothesis is a textbook affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. It takes this form. If P, then Q. Q, therefore P. GeoClown's hypothesis. If the Earth is spinning, P, then when a test mass moves from east to west, the weight will change, Q. We observe weight change, Q. Therefore, the Earth is spinning, therefore P. Great job. Love it. You need any more gasoline with your matches? Number three, your independent variable, Earth is spinning, is invalid. Why? Well, from the University of North Carolina. In an experiment, the independent variable is the variable that is varied or manipulated by the researcher. The dependent variable is the response that is measured. An independent variable is the presumed cause, whereas the dependent variable is the presumed effect. Crayon Muncher, can you vary and manipulate the Earth? Oh, that's right, I forgot. You activate those special Evo mind powers. Sorry. Therefore, you cannot isolate, then confirm the cause. P.S. It's also a begging the question fallacy because you're assuming the very thing you're attempting to prove, Mr. Magoo. Spinning Earth, remember? Number four, your null hypothesis is a tear-jerking belly laugher. Why? Well, according to sciencenote.org, the null hypothesis, or the zero difference or no difference hypothesis, predicts that changing one variable, the independent variable, will have no effect on the variable being measured, right? Your independent variable, the Earth, is spinning. You didn't and can't test or change it. Duh. This fifth grade general science failure is also a moronic double your trouble fallacy, an affirming the consequent and begging the question fallacies. In conclusion, with this, you need to file suit against Tuco Community College in Tobago for that mail-order degree you got due to failure to provide services. You have an open and shut case. And Betty was completely justified laughing in your clown face, Crayon Muncher. Continue. Stop at 149.24. Thanks.
I told you. What happens is you measure that there's a difference in weight when you're moving east to west. What you also measure is that it's not symmetrical. So, for example, when you're moving 465 kilometers eastwards, you will feel, or this 10 kilogram test mass will feel 1.02 newtons lighter. When you're moving 465 meters per second westwards, then this test mass will feel 0.34 newtons heavier. All right? Now, what we are doing then is we're making the hypothesis, okay, this is caused by the spin of the planet.
Yes, and the null hypothesis is?
The null hypothesis is that the planet is not spinning.
Okay, and how can you test that? How can you manipulate the independent variable?
The independent variable is your speed.
No.
Yes. That is literally what is
you are trying to prove the spin of the Earth. That's what you're trying to prove. That's what is in your hypothesis statement.
All right. Listen to
so
me.
You're not going to get any further here because you have no valid hypothesis. You don't know what a scientific hypothesis is.
I already told you.
Yeah, he doesn't. That's for sure. So, GeoClown. For example, when you're moving 465 kilometers eastwards, you will feel this 10 kilogram test mass will feel 1.02 newtons lighter. When you're moving 465 meters per second westwards, then this test mass will feel 0.34 newtons heavier. Are you snorting shrooms and chasing them with grandpa's cough medicine? What train is moving at 465 meters per second westwards when the Earth is allegedly spinning 465 meters per second eastwards? Por favor. Isn't the train attached to the Earth? Oh, and by the way, the train example, I just didn't conjure that. He used that example just before this or right after it. He put Betty on a train with this nonsense. And number two, 465 kilometers eastwards? What does this mean? What is this in relation to? Are you trying to say 465 meters per second eastward? Don't know. Didn't make any sense anyway. So I'm back to this again. GeoClown. The independent variable is your speed. Betty, no. GeoClown, yes. Betty, no. You are trying to prove the spin of the Earth. That is what's in your hypothesis. He finally realizes it. Oh, GeoClown. All right, all right. So this is a joke, man. I mean, actual jokes are blushing. So skip to 152.08 and stop at 153.08, please. And I'm going to give Nathan a bone to chew on.
That the only thing that we are trying to find out here is that omega. We know that m and we know that r. For example, when we are on the equator, we know the r. Yeah, we know the r, and we know the mass. So what we're trying to find is that omega over there.
Okay, so the mass is the mass of the person?
Yeah, I mean the testing object. In the case of this diagram, it's a test mass of 10 kilograms.
Okay, and the r was the what?
The distance
The
between
latitude.
you. No. The distance between you and the rotational axis.
So you are presupposing a rotational axis. Yes.
No. Well, yes. I mean because
Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
Listen.
Because that's why
Listen.
Going
Yes.
the wrong way.
Listen. We are presupposing this R. Okay. Let's say we're presupposing this.
Yeah. That's all I've got to say. We are presupposing this R. So if you're watching Red Rhetoric, that one's for you, buddy. You're presupposing R in R you trust.
Amen. Skip to 157.13 and stop at 157.57, please.
Let's go to gravity then, because you mentioned gravity.
Yes.
Okay, so which gravity?
What do you mean by which gravity?
Which gravity? Newtonian Cavendish gravity or Einsteinian gravity?
The one is a result of the other.
Okay, but which gravity are you going on? Is it the force or is it not a force?
Yeah, it's a force.
Okay, so Newtonian gravity then.
Right.
Okay, but the scientific community doesn't follow Newtonian gravity.
Oh, yes, it does. For a good approximation, it's right, and it's actually the result of Einsteinian gravity. So yeah, the force of gravity that you feel is a result of space-time bending.
Okay.
So, Betty, which gravity? GeoClown. What do you mean by which gravity? Betty, Newtonian Cavendish gravity or Einsteinian gravity? GeoClown. The one is the result of the other. Really? I'd like to see how that happened. So Newtonian gravity results from Einsteinian gravity? What was Isaac Newton back in like 300 years before Einstein came? Was he back there like saying, well, this looks like the result of Einsteinian gravity? I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure somebody like Einstein, named Einstein, is going to come along, and that's what this is the result of. Inane, moronic gibberish. And Newtonian gravity is a force. Einsteinian gravity is not a force. Newtonian gravity is Euclidean 3 space, whereas Einsteinian gravity is pseudo-Riemannian 4 space. Newtonian gravity is instantaneous actions at a distance. Einsteinian gravity is limited to the speed of light. I mean, if I tried to make these two any more different I couldn't do it on purpose. Clown. But for brevity, so GeoClown. So a force results from a non-force? Where's that from? From Tuco Community College down there, brother. Unbelievable. By the way, laws, Newton's, etc., never ever result from scientific theories. The next dumpster fire. Betty, is it a force? GeoClown. Yeah, it's a force. Betty, so Newtonian gravity then. GeoClown. Right. The force of gravity you feel is the result of space-time bending. Oh, really? From Caltech. Einstein came up with the theory of general relativity, the prototype of all modern gravitational theories. Its crucial ingredient, involving a colossal intellectual jump, yeah, right, is the conception or the concept of gravitation, not as a force, but as a manifestation of the curvature of space-time. Do you see this? GeoClown Crayon Muncher. Do you see the juxtaposition? Not the same, not resulting from the juxtaposition. They're two different things. If you would have said that cerebellums result from the mating of facultative anaerobe woodpeckers, it would have been more coherent. Skip to 217.33, stop at 219.
Because in germ theory, give me the equation of the germ theory.
Let's just
There isn't one.
Let's just ask Microorganism. He's a biologist. He's in the side chat, and I'm pretty sure there's a correlation. Maybe in unlimited, where there's unlimited supply of food sources. I think you can pretty much get a nice correlation between the number of, for example, bacteria and the time. So I'm pretty sure there is a formula that deserves that name.
There is a formula to what?
So you were asking for a formula in the germ theory of disease, right?
Yes. So you can describe germ theory in mathematical forms.
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's see it.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking Micro if he's still in the side chat.
Interesting.
Wait, there's no math involved in that. So Micro, there should be a formula that describes when you have an unlimited food source for bacteria, how the number of bacteria is going to change over time, right? So you plug in a reproduction rate and you plug in a start value. That should be it, wouldn't it?
Interesting.
Biology, we don't math. Yeah, I use math in most of the theories. You're right, but
yeah. So what led to Betty asking him this question right here, which is priceless, by the way, was a discussion about math and science and how math is science. Something to that effect. It went on for a few minutes. But then that obviously, if that's true, then this question is very legitimate. Why? Well, because germ theory is an actual scientific theory. So it was a great question. Betty, give me the equation for germ theory. Right? GeoClown. He's for sure. He said he can answer the question, but where does he go? He goes to the chat. GeoClown, let's just ask Microbloganism. He's a biologist. He's in the side chat. So Micro IQ answering Geo in the side chat. He goes, wait, there's no math involved in that. And in biology, we don't use math in most of theorists. So let me ask you a question, Micro IQ. Do they use spell check in biology? And you will never, ever find the scientific theory equation, right? You'd have better chances finding the GNP in a walrus tusk. Freaking idiotic. Then Geostreber, he doesn't leave it go, right? They can't leave this stuff go, so he'll just keep on going, keep on getting his hand smashed Geostreber. I'm pretty sure there's a correlation. Maybe where there's unlimited supply of food sources, I think you can pretty much get a nice correlation between the number of, for example, bacteria and the time. So I'm pretty sure there's a formula that deserves that name. Micro IQ in the chat. That wouldn't be germ theory. So it just blows up in his face right here. It was priceless. Go ahead and watch the video and you'll see what I mean. Just look over to side chat. So translation, GeoClown, you're a certifiable imbecile. Okay? In conclusion, it's crystal clear that you're a demonstrable, no-depth, Wiki Discovery Channel parroting pretender clown muppet that couldn't pass 5th grade general science or a 60-level basic reasoning course. And you are most assuredly Betty's bitch. P.S. We can now add to that demonstrated fraud and a liar. From your current antics with Soundly. We'll get to him in a moment. Have a nice day. Oh, by the way, before I forget, if you have more than 2 subscribers, that is your mother and Soundly, by tomorrow morning, then 1, you paid for your subscribers, or 2, they're all preschoolers or have the intellectual and science acumen of a preschooler. So, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Now we are going to have a break shortly and then go on to Soundly, but before we do, I was hoping that between the three of us we can have a bit of a chat about Geostreber. Obviously there are some social aspects to Geo's behaviour that could also benefit from being discussed here. I know Anthony will definitely pipe up at this moment, so you're still there, Anthony?
Yes. Can you still hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Well, originally Geo was one of the first ballers that I actually had any kind of dialogue with. I thought he was a normal kind of guy. He was two-faced in that he would be normal with me when he was offline, but when he was online, he would hate me, which I found strange because that two-facedness is dodginess. But what I found with him is that he's dishonest. He will have hangouts in the background, right, and present things that are not his own thoughts, feelings, emotions as his own, and that in itself. We knew that they were doing it, but when he passes out lies and says that he wasn't doing it and then gets shown to try and muddy waters that are black and white, clear as sin, it's irreprehensible in my opinion. It's a level of dishonesty that is so far below what he pushes and expects of us. The guy is complicit with Soundly and Sean for being dishonest. I don't know how these guys can even be on YouTube. It's disgusting what they're doing. It's one thing to be wrong on the internet, but to conspire with Soundly, with Sean, and try and muddy waters, of which I, on this occasion, am completely and utterly innocent of all wrongdoings, to try and make it look like in some way that I'm guilty of anything, and then to do this with Betty and try and obfuscate the scientific process in a way that makes it look like you guys hold the monopoly. What's going on here? Is this not the perfect definition of shill?
I don't know about shill, but what I will add is just a brief summary for the audience that may not know what you're talking about. So basically about December of 2017, Anthony held a hangout that was supposed to be one-to-one with Geostreber, and after addressing it or going back to it to have a listen again several months later, Anthony discovered some periods of silence or apparent silence in the hangout when he looked at the audio track. And lo and behold, what he actually discovered was Soundly feeding Geostreber information in the background on his headset. Now, subsequent to that, Geostreber, Soundly, the biggest liar of them all, and Sean Hufford have got together to basically try and, as Anthony put it, muddy the waters and make it seem like Anthony has got a hangout of Soundly and Sean playing in the background while he's having a conversation with Geostreber. Complete farce, complete nonsense. But in essence, rather than just conceding that yes, he's stupid and does require Soundly in his ear to help him get by when talking with Anthony, he's gone forth and actually lied about it even more to try and cover his tracks, which to me is the far greater of the two crimes. You know, as Anthony puts it, it's not necessarily the biggest crime in the world to have Geostreber fed by Soundly. It just makes him look very, very, very stupid. But it's not the biggest crime in the world. Going forward and actually lying through his back teeth consistently, and you can test this, go to either Geo or Soundly and ask them about this. So if it's Geo, why was Soundly feeding you when you were talking to Anthony? And he will barefaced lie to your face. He'll just lie to you. Same goes for Soundly, they'll just deny it, even though there's literally a recording of a contemporaneous conversation where Geo asks Soundly for help and Soundly gives it him. So that's about as brief a summary as I can give of the situation in regards to Geostreber's social acumen and his general deceit when it comes to things that are outside of the actual scientific method. And as John has ably demonstrated, he has absolutely no understanding of the scientific method, and that's why he's had so much attention given to him on this hangout, because he claims to be a man of science.
It's probably worth playing the clip again so that people can rehear it, Nath.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what you're listening for is Geostreber saying, where is it? Down here, right? So that's the question that he asks. And then without any hesitation, the response by Soundly is, yeah, and go back to that definition he cites too. So this is it. He asks the question and he gets the response.
Wait, let me check it. Where was it? Further down, right?
Yeah, go back to that definition he cites too. Sure.
Now that's been blamed on me coming through my microphone. It's not me. It's him and Soundly having a conversation. They won't admit to it, and they've got Sean involved, and they're trying to muddy waters, of which I am no party of, but I'm being blamed for. They're dishonest. I'm done, Nath.
I'm done too, unless John's got anything to add. I'm going to round out the show now. So did you want to have the last word on this, John, and then we'll round out, have a little break, and then come back to Soundly?
Yeah, Sean Hufford, you were the one that put forth this little excuse. It's a belly laugher, by the way. And in the comment section, I still have that comment section, by the way. You said you even agreed with me. You're right, because I challenged you to provide the evidence that the video's playing on Anthony's side. You have to have those two comments that Soundly made within 5 seconds of each other. And you said, "Yep, we're on it, QE. We have a bunch of people on it. We'll get that done." And you agreed that would more or less provide alibi and the innocence of your two clients. That was 16, 17 days ago. Still waiting. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a month. Personally, I'll give you a month. If you don't provide that video of the hangout with Soundly talking with Sean, or whoever, Soundly has to say those two statements that we have recorded in 1 month. If you don't provide that, then Geo Clown and Soundly are frauds.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Right?
There is one other thing to add then, based on that. So,
Sure.
with this rigmarole of Soundly, Geostreber, and Sean Hufford claiming that Anthony was actually listening to a hangout, as you've probably just figured out, they've claimed that this is something they can very easily go back and find, i.e. the Soundly and Sean hangout that Anthony was claimed to have been playing in the background. Now, after that was claimed by these three Muppets, it was then put to Anthony that it's very hard, it's very time-consuming, very difficult. There's probably at least 20 hangouts that are all 4 or 5 hours long. It's difficult to just find a quote. For example, this is me paraphrasing Sean. I had the word paraphrasing because it's not a direct quote, something Sean struggles with, I hasten to add. Anyway, he says, go and find this quote from me, Nathan. So Sean says, go and find a Nathan quote that is this quote in quotation marks. Gives it to Anthony and says, off you go and find it in amongst 400 plus hangouts. So Anthony, within 24 hours, comes back to him and says, I'm not 100% sure that you're giving me an accurate quote. You're not exactly known for being able to quote people verbatim. So is it actually the words spoken? Can you give me a clip, a cutout section of that soundbite so I can check that it is actually what you've said it is? And what do you know, when he provides Anthony with a clip to test Anthony in terms of how difficult it is to find this sort of thing, he gives him the clip, the sound clip, and it's nothing like what he's put in quotation marks. Shock horror. But anyway, the point is that Anthony within 24 hours, managed to find this exact quote from 400 Hangouts. 24 hours. Now, these three boneheads have got about 20 Hangouts to go through. They've had, 16, 17 days, well over a couple of weeks to do it. Nothing. Bupkus. That's what they've got. Just lies.
Is it worth playing the clipping question that I found in 400 debates, Nathan?
I don't think so. It will muddy our own waters, if I'm perfectly honest. As fun though it is to give details, that just to make the example that it took you literally 24 hours to find a clip. That said, from memory, the clip is actually relevant to the scientific method. So on second thoughts, yeah, if you've got it queued up, yeah, play it. That is the scientific method, idiot. You have an assumed cause, not an assumption. An assumed cause. So that was the clip from me, and that was basically what Anthony was set to task to go and find in amongst 400 Hangouts, 400 plus Hangouts. He found it within a day. So there is no unicorn hangout. There is no Soundly and Sean talking to each other in a hangout that Anthony was playing. It's just lies.
And smear and muddying of waters. The guy's guilty as charged. There is no evidence to protect him. Are they going to admit and accept that they did this thing, this heinous crime of covering up a lie? No. Are we expected to do it if we get a little piece of evidence interpretation wrong? Yes. Why is it a different set of results? A different set of rules?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Sean has to provide that video of Soundly saying those two statements. It's cut and dry. You either provide it or those two are frauds. Period. And you're complicit after the fact, brother. John Hufford.
And let me just state Sean's current position. Sean now admits that it's not one of his hangouts, which he was adamant it was in first. But now he admits it's not one of his hangouts. But he also tries to dilute the importance of finding that hangout, that unicorn hangout, because he claims that he's able to analyze the audio himself and prove that the sound was coming through my microphone. Yet when I've looked at that his claim of proving where the sound was coming from, I can equally argue that it came through Geo's microphone, and it can't prove it either way. It neither proves Geo right or wrong, nor does it prove me right or wrong, but he's telling his audience that it proves that I'm wrong. No, what tells the audience that I'm right or wrong is you finding that unicorn hangout that we both know does not exist.
No, what proves them wrong is a recording of a contemporaneous conversation between Geostreber and Soundly, where Geostreber asks him a question and Soundly responds. There's no further investigation required. It's absolutely blatant. Geostreber asks a question, Soundly answers. It's as simple as that. Anyway, with that, having absolutely demolished Geostreber and proven beyond certitude that he is scientifically incompetent, and established pretty much beyond reasonable doubt that they are, Geostreber, Soundly and Sean Hufford, all complicit in lies and deceit, and given the deadline that John's just given these three Muppets, they've got another month to at least prove that they're not complete and total frauds. So with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge massive thank you to John and Anthony. Thank you both.
No worries.
My pleasure, sir.
And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this discussion, or Flat Earth Debate Special Edition. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with Geostreber, Soundly or Sean Hufford. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!